I'm a professional Photoshop artist and welcome to Layer by Layer. Today I'll be showing you the entire process of my latest Photoshop artwork based on the Boys series. So let's get started. First I began with the sketch, transferring the rough idea from my head onto the screen. This didn't take as long because I wasn't trying to draw the artwork from scratch, but we will come to the drawing bit later. Then I spent a lot of time collecting stock photos and images from the Google to work with. I also used perspective grid to make everything as realistic as possible. This was challenging because I had always avoided working with perspective like this. I roughly drew where I wanted the road to be, cut some objects from the images I gathered, and added sidewalks, cars, and debris. At this point, I focused on positioning all the objects before blending them together. Getting some houses, buildings into the scene, and with the perspective tool trying to follow the grid as best as I can. Adding everything in place to act as a framework for the piece. Yeah, I know the car looks very uncanny right now, but just trust the process, alright? I would say making the front building was the easiest part. For some reason, the background was very hard. After adding sky, I started drawing some textures on the sidewalk and some other props. I redrew one side of the building because it was extremely distorted and I didn't want to spend more time finding pictures in the right angle. I wanted to work with what I had, and I also drew some entrances to the building. A very unique aspect of this artwork is this fake ad posters that I made separately in a different project. I wanted to convey the atmosphere of the Boys series, and I think those fake ads really sold the effect. Okay, now finally I'm fixing those ugly cars. To be very honest, this was very hard and quite fun and relaxing at the same time. Although I'm not very great at drawing, I've always enjoyed some drawing tutorials from time to time, and applying what's left from these tutorials in my head to drawing cars helped me. Every car started with the simple shapes and lines, and then I just built upon these sketches. This might made every car look a little bit too similar to each other, but come on, I gotta give myself a credit. I think I did a great job drawing. After every car on the right side was drawn, I cut some parts from the original car images and warped them around the drawing to give them a little more realistic texture. Then I was just jumping around, drawing some building entrances and some other elements here and there. I repeated the same process with the cars on the other side. Then I added some random 3D models of people running around to fill in the image. Now the cool part, I had some images of abandoned and destroyed buildings, so I used those to destroy the building in my image. Because my idea was that Homelander got mad and destroyed the whole city, or maybe even the country, who knows. This involved cutting pieces, adding them accordingly, and adding fire to create a light source beside the big screen in the middle. Speaking of the building in the middle, it's time to work on it. I added cables and antennas to enhance the realism, as it was very close to the viewer. Also made some windows open just for a fun little detail. Now, very important piece is this image on the display of breaking news article of Homelander going insane. And to save me some time making the image look like a big screen, I just took a picture of my monitor on my phone and just pasted it into my project, and I mean, you can't go more realistic than this. I added some Gaussian blur and some other glows to make it, well, glow? Next, I work on lighting throughout the background, adding light to the buildings and people. Added a huge smoke cloud from the fire on the left, enhancing the part of realism. I continued adding glows and shadows and smoke, and often switching between different elements. Now another very interesting and pretty violent thing is I added a person splashed into a building on the right, referring one of the scenes in season 4. And to make it even more perfect, I made the person look like Butcher from the show, just because I can. A major step of this artwork was creating the main character, Homelander, staring at the screen in the middle. I've collected some images of Homelander from Mortal Kombat 1 and some other screenshots from the show as a reference, because I knew I wouldn't be able to find the image of him in the right angle. So I had to make my own. Just adding and drawing stuff on top of this guy flying, I used him specifically for the pose of our Homelander. These boots gave me so much headache. I could not for the life of me draw them perfectly, so I just had to go with whatever I had in me. Added some shadows and textures here and there. Also a cool little detail, I wanted to make the cape being a little torn, and then simply dragging him into the main project and blending him into the scene. This went pretty smoothly. Now, approaching final steps, I added some lens flares, particles, and some other finishing touches. After applying camera filter, here's the final piece. I can confidently say this is my biggest Photoshop project ever. This project took me 16 hours of footage. This is just insane. And the amount of photos and stock footages and the drawing I had to make, this is just wow. I hope you enjoyed the process and the final result. If you have any ideas for my future videos, please leave them in the comments below. Follow me on Instagram. My name is Ilya, and I'll see you in the next one.